we are thinking about this combination of these pieces, right? A coach is a mentor. It's going to be someone who's giving you that guidance and insight to really get to the next steps, sharing knowledge and wisdom. It's going to be someone who is advising you, who is giving you the particular steps or a journey, right? Like giving you that guidance on this journey to improvement. And it's also someone who's going to be imparting knowledge with you, teaching you, really giving you instruction on how to move on into these areas. I'm curious to hear from y'all as we take a moment to really think about what we mean by instruction, mentoring, and advising. Let me admit, Javier. I'm curious to hear from y'all what you see as some of these key differences between instruction, mentoring, and advising, or what comes up as you think about the differences in these areas and how coaching integrates them. And again, think about those past coaching experiences. How do you imagine that bringing in each of these skill sets allows someone to step into that coach role, more importantly? I'll give you a moment to take a look at these.
I guess for me, it's kind of like the teaching module. It's like a gradual release, right? Like you get the information you need, you show them how to do it, and then they can do it on their own. That's what I'm seeing.
That gradual
What
release.
immediate
Go ahead, Kimberly.
what immediately stands out to me, and I'm not sure this is like a fully fleshed out thought, but like the three circles can each exist on their own. Like you can transfer that knowledge without necessarily having the greatest care or being a mentor to the people that you're teaching. Advising, I'm having a little bit of a challenge differentiating from the teaching piece. I think those are the most adjacent for me, but at its core is that concept that each of these can happen independently, but when they're all put together, like the outcome is usually better.
Yeah, thank you so much for flagging that, Kimberly. Each of these, to your point, can exist on their own, right? And you will have folks who really lean into that teaching or that mentoring or advising roles. What you'll see here, what we hope you experience here, is that opportunity to bring each of these pieces into the coaching to reach this bigger outcome. And you'll see us stepping into this coaching role, which will be a little bit different than what you've seen us do in the past. And with coaching, we're going to step into, yes, teaching you, right, sharing the information, the knowledge that we have, really stepping into that mentoring role and providing that guidance and insights, and then also providing that advising. And I'll go back to this advising piece because I do think that's an important differentiation to make. And really, as you were naming there's a lot of similarity between instruction and advising. But really, when we think about advising here, is that we want to think about how we are exchanging information to really make sure that you're reaching your educational and career goals. And that's really what providing direct advice or insights, right, that might help you get to that next level versus just information sharing. And I think the difference that I see with advising is that it's a continued relationship versus teaching might be just in that moment or in a specific situation. So we'll be bringing in each of these concepts into the coaching to, again, really create this unique opportunity for y'all to reflect on some of the leadership journey that you have and how you are hoping to grow in that journey. Here's our approach to Latinx Ed's, or this Latinx Ed's coaching model, our approach to coaching. The pieces that I really want us to focus on here as we explore this coaching model is that we work to center your definition of success. So coaching is all about you as an individual. What will be really helpful and I think exciting in this space is that you get to do it with each other. So you'll have a chance to really lean into the group space, into the learning of your cohort to really create this opportunity to, again, center your own learning and your own definition of success. We'll also be working to co-creating strategies. So throughout each of our sessions, we'll think about and explore your own definition of what it looks like to succeed in this session. And we'll also talk about how to actually get to that successful place. So we're excited to really, again, think about this centering of your experience, because we know that in many other spaces, whether it's in our typical education spaces, we've just not had that moment to really think about our own experiences and more specifically what we want to get out of those experiences. The other piece that is going to be really important is that we really work to create and provide a strong relational foundation for this piece around accountability, transparency, and care. And I'm like, I'll stop sharing my screen for this part, because I want us to have a brief conversation just around that piece with the importance of relationships in coaching. And we talked a little bit about this briefly when we were exploring the different experiences that we've had with coaching. But I think about my coaching experience, and if I had somebody telling me that I was not shooting right and they had no type of relationship with me, I'm going to get offended. Like, now we have a problem. Now I'm not really listening to what you're saying. And so for us, our approach is really relational. We really want you to have this space where we are really thinking intentionally about the trust that we're cultivating with each other to be able to move into this space where we're accountable to each other, where we're transparent to each other, and where we're demonstrating care. And so it was important for us to have our retreats, right? And to build that relationship before we got into the space, because we're going to be challenging you. We are going to be pushing you, and we're really going to encourage you to think about your leadership, your mindset, and your behaviors. And that requires a lot of trust in the folks that are going to be stepping into that coaching space with you. The last piece that I'll share as we get into really renorming and reforming our space for us to get into our conversations for today is our definition. And I'll actually drop it in the chat so that we can have some conversation about this. So I'll share the definition here. Give me a second. Not me, deleting it accidentally. Okay, so I'll read it, or actually I'll drop it in the chat. And could I get someone to read that definition for the group? Someone to read that definition for the group real quick.
Sure. Coaching is a thought-provoking and co-creative partnership that determines what success looks like for an individual and takes a proactive approach to achieve short and long-term personal, professional, and leadership goals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberly. You'll see that we've bolded a couple of pieces, thought-provoking. We really want to encourage you to think deeply and to really reflect on the leadership that you currently hold and the areas in which you want to grow and challenge yourself. We often don't have an opportunity to really have those moments of reflection, right? Whether it's because of the reality of our busy schedules. So we are leaning intentionally into that in this space. And we hope that you lean into that thought-provoking piece of coaching, right? Really allow yourself to be challenged, challenge each other. There's really a lot of value in doing group coaching sessions. So we're excited to see what this co-learning space can look like. It is co-creative, right? It is a partnership. We are going to be working together. And it really, again, I want to emphasize that piece that we were just talking about earlier, where I was mentioning where we prioritize your definition of success. It is critical for you to share and for you to reflect on what success will look like in this space. Coaching only works if you allow yourself to be coached. And that really requires, again, to step into this reflective space. So we hope that you lean into co-creating this space for us. And then ultimately, it is a proactive approach. We'll have some challenges for you throughout this experience, and we hope that you put those into action. Part of the benefit of coaching is actually putting into practice the conversations that we'll be having today. So just know that there will be some proactive expectations around how you are incorporating some of the conversations that we'll have in your leadership and in your journey. The last thing that I'll mention is that coaching is not therapy. Okay. As we get into the conversation, it will be really important for us to recognize the things that we can and cannot really fix, quote unquote. And I don't even think therapy is really a place to fix anything, right? But one of the pieces that I do just want to name is that we will have conversations about moving forward. And I think a lot of the times when we reflect on our leadership, there may be some things that pop up that we're still processing or we're still trying to unpack and figure out. And that is I hope, can y'all hear my Alexa talking, telling me all the weather? No? Okay. I'm like, it's me distrajo, and now I got to get my train of thought back. Alexa comes on at 6:30 every day to tell me what the weather is for the next day. But we hope that while this space is an opportunity for you to think about the ways in that you move forward, you also think about some of the pieces that you might need or some additional supports. And we're happy to talk through those too, of being able to process and move on from past things. So this is not going to be that space where we're talking about those pieces. We are really looking at forward thinking and again, mapping out some of the success that we hope to have in the future. So just do want to name that last piece there. So today, or actually, let me pause here. Any reflections, thoughts as you think about the conversations that we'll be having? What's sticking out to you about this coaching approach, or what curiosities are coming up for you as you think about what coaching might look like? And then I'll give you an intro to what our session will focus on today. Any reflections, thoughts, curiosities?
Hi, this is Jasmine. I was just wondering if you can give an example on how it actually looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That would be helpful. Like, 'cause I haven't done group coaching before, so
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of visualize or mentally prepare.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. Mireya and Lucia, I'm like, not to put y'all on the spot. I know y'all were just talking about what coaching looks like in practice. I wonder if y'all can share the example that y'all kind of walked through together. Or let me know if you want me to provide one, if it'd be easier.
I'm like looking at Lucia. Is she gonna jump in? So Yasmin, did you say you have done coaching but not group coaching?
Yeah.
Okay. I've only done group coaching, but not, well, actually, I have done both now. I definitely think that with group coaching, what you might notice the difference is being able to like see what other people's journeys are, the similarities, and even the process that maybe they're taking that could be similar or different from yours. So at least in my coaching experience, like it felt really good to kind of know we're all working on something and here are the ways that it connects, here's how it's different, but you learn even if it's not from that similarity, even from the differences. So that's something that stands out to me. But you said an example. I mean, we're about to do it, so just putting it out there. But Lucia, if you have a specific example.
Yeah, I mean, I think after today, if there are any questions, I think we can talk about it more, but I think we're going to be modeling it today. The only thing that I would add is the purpose of doing it in a group is that we get to workshop with each other. So in a one-on-one dynamic, right, you're workshopping with your coach. And in this dynamic, we're workshopping with each other. So we are in this kind of more collaborative space where there is an individual goal as well as the collective goal, which is related to some of the things that Kiara shared at the beginning, right? Of like, there is a purpose in this being a collective experience and having that mutual accountability.
Thanks, Lucia. Yeah, so we're about to get into it, Yasmin. I'll go ahead and drop actually the guiding question for today. This is what I just dropped in the chat is what we'll be exploring today. We'll be talking about the mindsets and behaviors that we currently hold and really thinking about the ones that we must release or nurture to navigate the challenge, change, and conflict in leadership. So one thing that as we're thinking about what coaching will look like in practice, right, is that as you reflect and as we continue on with the conversations today, we'll have moments we'll really explore with curiosity what you're sharing, right? We'll ask you some questions. We'll really try to get to the root of what you're currently experiencing. So you can expect to receive questions about what you're sharing, I think more so than you've been used to in other spaces. So think about what this question might bring up for you and just know that we'll be, again, exploring with curiosity what you're sharing to really get to the root of some of these behaviors and mindsets that shape our experiences with challenge, change, and conflict in our leadership. Any other questions that are coming up about coaching or any other curiosities? All right, I'm going to share my screen one more time, because as we have already talked about, right, we are showing up in this space differently. You've seen us as facilitators, right, really holding space for conversations that are important for us to explore topics and ideas. And as we step into this coaching space to, again, really challenge the mindsets, the behaviors that we've been holding connected to our leadership, it may require that we have some really intentional conversation about our community norms. So these are the ones that you've created in the past, or that you created during our retreats. As we shared with you then, these really are a work in progress. They are living and breathing. I want you to take a moment and revisit these and think about any of the norms that still feel true to what this space might need to look like. And think about anything that might be missing. Is there anything that you would add that is not already captured here as you think about this coaching space? And really, again, leaning into that vulnerability that will be critical to having some real honest conversations about our leadership. So think about what still might be missing. And if anything is resonating, drop it in the chat, or feel free to come off mute and amplify that for folks. But I'll give you a moment to sit with these.
I'll just elevate. I don't know if it fits into one that's already there, but maybe just an agreement around discretion, given that we might be talking a little bit about our professional life, how that impacts maybe other people within our networks. So a shared agreement on discretion for anything that's shared, I think, is appreciated.
I was gonna ask for the same, like something around privacy. I don't know. I feel like we're very comfortable with each other in this space. And as we become vulnerable and share things, it'd be nice to know that it will, as much as possible, will stay here. And also we know that, like, I don't know, I feel like we also have to be careful with what we share. If we 100%, assurance, but I think we have that as an agreement, maybe in the other agreements or something. No, well, like some of the things. I don't know. I don't remember our other agreements, but yeah.
I just dropped one in the chat. I'm seeing some thumbs up. We honor this space by keeping conversations confidential. I see folks reacting to that. Okay. Anything else, or anything that's resonating that you want to amplify? Manda and Javier, I'm curious to hear what y'all think. Do these track? This group is too small. I see you smiling, Manda. I will be calling you in, okay? This is coaching 101 already.
The one I keep going back to is we take time to meet people where they are right now, not where we want or expect them to be, and respect their boundaries. And I think, like with the pre-assessment, it's acknowledging where I am, and I feel like I am so far behind the work that we're trying to do with, I'm just a measly teacher, and I see everybody else's titles and stuff like that. So that's something that I know I have to work on. But that was like, I need people to understand that.
Yes. Thank you so much for naming that. I think that also connects to what we expect this coaching experience to be like, right? We're all in different parts of our journey. So coaching might look like one thing to Kimberly, and it might look like something completely different for you, Amanda. So honoring really where we are right now is going to be critical to ensuring that this coaching experience is what we need it to be in this moment. So thank you for amplifying that. Javier, is there anything coming up for you?
At the moment, no. I'm thinking it looks pretty good. I mean, not much to change, really. But I mean, I guess just trying to refocus on them, if that makes sense. Trying to be more aware of them as they're there, instead of just forgetting about them.
Yes. Staying grounded in these is going to be really important. So thank you for naming that too, Javier. All right. I'm going to update our slides and add that norm in there, and then I'll drop them in the chat in that vein that Javier is naming so that we can keep these at the forefront as we continue on with our conversation. So we'll continue to revisit these throughout our sessions, and I'm excited to go ahead and get into our actual discussion. So I'll go ahead and pass it to you, Mireya.
Thanks. Oh, I love y'all's norms. They were so beautiful. And I think so much of it can be relevant in a lot of spaces, including this one. But really grateful too for uplifting some additional needs we need in this space, because as we did share, you know, in order to have the best experience or make the most of coaching, you do have to be vulnerable, but in a different way than maybe we've been in the past, because this is very specific situations that you might be navigating and having conversations about them. So thank you for just like bringing those needs up. As we get started, we did share today's guiding question, which really focuses on what are some mindsets and behaviors that we need to be critical about and think about in order to better navigate challenges, changes, or conflicts in our roles, in our jobs, in our work, and I'm saying the same thing, in our personal lives as well. So really thinking about what is that relationship we have to change, challenge, and conflict is where we want to get started, because before we can even think about the mindsets we might be holding, we really need to think about, how do I feel about change, challenge, and conflict? And to get us started, a little icebreaker. Who here has seen the movie Encanto? Raise your hand. Okay, everybody, I think we've all seen it. Okay, so based on that movie, because I know so many of us might have related to the different circumstances and dynamics that are displayed there, what are some of the lessons that maybe you think stood out to you based on the things that they were navigating? Because there was some change, challenge, and conflict in that movie, right? What stood out to you about the characters or about the family as it relates to those three C's? Okay, Javier, we got you. Don't worry. We'll catch you up right now. And you can just jump in and unmute yourself.
I was going to
It's
say
been some time.
conflict.
Oh, go ahead, Amanda. No, go ahead.
Conflict between oh my God, the two sisters with the long hair, and then
Oh,
the one
yeah.
with the hair. Like the jealousy there, like that's obviously the conflict there, and then I guess, yeah.
Okay. So a specific situation came up to you, right? For the two sisters that had a very complex relationship,
Mhm.
jealousy, comparison, and things like that. What were you gonna say, Jasmine?
I was gonna say it's been a long time since I watched it, so I don't remember the characters' names, but I remember, I guess the main character having like high expectations of herself or of what she should be like or what she should do. I don't remember if the expectations were also put on by the family. I think that they eventually, I don't remember that aspect. But the other thing was the strong one,
Oh,
just carrying the weight, literal weight, but also could be, other type of weight. Luisa, yes. Um, and so I think those dynamics, I'm thinking more on the personal level as well, because sometimes we choose to do things, we put those things on ourselves, the expectations, the responsibility, um, and maybe it's because of dynamics or different things, but a lot of the times we also wanna do things for others, and then we don't remember about ourselves, and that can like a snowball to other things.
yes. I love the different characters y'all are bringing up, because in some ways, all the characters were navigating, the family conflicts in very different ways. And that's what we want to highlight, that we all of us have a different relationship in response to those things. And it's really important to reflect on what that relationship looks like for us. And so here I'm gonna quickly show only 4 characters, but you even named Luisa, right? Which is not on here, but I'm glad you did. And so I'm gonna highlight 4 of the characters and kind of their response and relationship to the conflict change or challenge. And so we had Bruno, who like just disappeared. Sometimes people, when you come across those things, you avoid it and you just don't want to think about it, and you hope that it'll just disappear. If I don't deal with it, it's not really happening. We might have Warrior, I don't remember her name, but she was like stressed out, a lot of anxiety, really constantly thinking about the issues, but not knowing how to actually approach them or address them. We had the grandma, okay, the good old grandma that maybe we can relate to, or we have someone in our life who is a little passive, right? You know what they feel and how they what their response is to these things without even saying what they're actually feeling. So being really indirect in those situations. Then we had Maribel, like you said, who was like just trying to be a fixer. If I can help solve all these problems, like everything will be fine. And yeah, it'll work out. And so she really wanted to help and just be a helper, a fixer. And so we're just highlighting 4 of these examples from that. There are a lot of different ways, right? But really reflecting on our relationship to that. How do we respond? I'll say from a personal level, I'm still on my journey, but yeah, I have been an avoider in the past, and in some situations I am, but I need to recognize that about myself, to really start unpacking, well, why do I feel that way? Why do I feel like I need to avoid these conversations or these situations? Why do I need to be so scared about facing them? And by doing that, how am I holding myself and my relationships back from what they could be? So just putting a little quick visual there, if it's helpful. Um, and with that, I really want to, I did a little short reflection on myself and shared that with y'all. But now let's take 2 minutes. And actually, before we get started, we forgot to share this earlier. Because we do have a document that you can use. We'll be having this at each session, like a handout that you'll go to, and it'll have notes from that coaching session, but then there'll be areas where you can reflect. So I'll drop this here for y'all. The link will automatically prompt you to make a copy for yourself. And in that section, you'll have an area where you can reflect, I believe. Oh, no, maybe not, but you will use that later. So what I want you to reflect on, and you can use that document, just make space somewhere, is thinking about what is your relationship to change, challenge, and conflict, and how do you respond to that, to those situations? What is your relationship with them? How do you feel about him? Is it something that you've learned to embrace? Is it something that you're still having a hard time, accepting? And how do you respond? Some of the characters from the movie might shed light on some of the ways that people might respond. And some of that you might relate to, but some of it you might not. So let's take 2 minutes to reflect, and then we'll chat about our relationship to change, challenge, and conflict. I'll put 2 minutes on my phone. All right. So now start wrapping up your thoughts, on those two questions. And we'll open the space for us to share a little bit about what we shared and what we kind of reckoned with as we thought about that relationship and that response.
I guess I can go.
Right, Amanda. Thank you.
I wrote, I hate conflict. I tried to avoid it like the plague. And when I sense it and am forced to confront it, try to use humor and fix it. I said I embrace change wholeheartedly, even though I didn't used to. And then challenge. I love to challenge people in their thoughts and words spoken, have a healthy conversation with intelligent individuals until it leads to conflict. And then I run.
Oh, good. I love how you broke down all those things, and it felt like you were really being honest with yourself and being honest with us too, of like, I just really hate conflict. Um, and even like kind of the way that you cope with it with humor. I definitely know some people in my life that you do that to kind of lighten the mood and um make it go away a little bit, you know? Who do you want to pass it to, Amanda?
Kimberly.
Yes. Similar to Amanda, conflict was the lowest on my list. What I wrote was I hate it. I don't like to be in it. I don't like managing others when they are in it as a supervisor. Yeah, this week it's like super relevant for me, and I'm like, I just really am not loving it. But I'm really embracing asking for help in conflict, which I think previously I would have been like Luisa, heavy lifting, but really just making sure to look out for myself and the best interest of me, my team, the organization as a whole. So just embracing a lot of that. Change and challenge for me, I usually can navigate well if it's a rational decision or a rational challenge, if it can be explained to me in a way that logistically makes sense, that I can see the outcome and why it's better to go this way. I usually embrace more well. Otherwise, I may just have some questions as we navigate that. And usually just in a professional space, if it's coming from a leadership standpoint, someone above me is making that decision, and I know that I don't have as much influence or impact in changing that, I usually am more willing to go with that change or that challenge.
Hmm. Yes. The rational part allows you to kind of be okay with it.
Right, right. If I can make it make sense.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're also bringing in like how your relationship to one of these impacts and roles that you might have when you are having to help other people navigate through the challenge, through the conflict. And if you're like having a hard time individually navigating those, then what role can you play in those moments? And how does some of those same behaviors transition into your role? So thanks for sharing a little bit about that. Who do you want to pass it now to?
I will pass it to Yasmin.
Hi. So I'm thinking about my relationship to change and challenge and conflict. So I think for me, conflict, I was just thinking the way that I approach conflict is different than the way that when the conflict is impacting myself is different how I approach it if it's impacting others that I might be supervising. And so if others are being impacted by conflict, I encourage them to deal with it right away. Because I don't know, I feel like they're complaining and I'm like, deal with it. But when it's impacting me, I don't deal with it right away. I take a lot of time to think about it, to reflect on it, to figure out like what options I have. what the outcomes could be. Like I map out like scenarios and then like how, you know, everything could like play out. And I've had to deal with a lot of conflict in the previous role I had. And so, yeah, so I think that I just realized that I address those two things differently depending on who's impacting. And I think, yeah, I feel like I don't make quick decisions right away just because I want to make the best decision. Sometimes probably I should not take that too long, too much time, because sometimes I feel like I let things impact me for too long, like longer than it should, because I don't want to hurt people's feelings, because I don't want misunderstandings, because I think about everyone else and then I leave myself at the end, and then it's like crossing a line that shouldn't have happened. But and then change. Javier, we will miss you. Thank you for joining for the time that you are here. Looking at the chat. For change, I don't like change. I don't like change because I've had to deal with a lot of change growing up, and like in, you know, just moving, like change makes me mad. And so I avoid it because I'm a person of patterns. I like my rhythm, I like my routine, and it feels like it's starting all over. But once I'm in it, like I embrace it. I think someone else said that, like, and I feel that's how I feel right now. I'm at a new job, at a new place, and I'm embracing it. But getting to the point where I was okay with leaving the other job and going into that change was hard. Like, again, I thought about it a lot until I was mentally ready to make that step. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. The pause, sometimes we don't like know how much it can like take a toll on us. But I definitely think about sometimes I like take some time to make a choice because I'm thinking about what should I do? Even if I know what I need to do, I'm scared to do it. And then at least I've learned everybody's situations are different, right? But sometimes once I do it, what I thought was the worst scenario that could happen never really does. But I like spent so much time like processing that and the anxiety behind it, and that pause is like really hard to like move through. And it definitely takes work, right, to think about. But similar to what you're saying, the difference between how you would guide someone else through some of this versus yourself can be very different, right? And it's good to reflect because in our roles, we might be doing individual work on some of this, but we are also helping others through that. With some of these takeaways, you know, seeing similarities that maybe you're seeing across each other's experiences or differences, that this is coaching, right? That we get to see the humanity in all of us and that we all have complex relationships with some of this, which can be hard to know sometimes if there aren't spaces, even in our roles, in our work, where we acknowledge that we're all learning how to navigate this and no one has given us the answer on how to do it, quote unquote, right. So hoping that by hearing others acknowledge like where they are in that journey of navigating change, challenge, or conflict, that it also helps you give yourself grace as you're learning, and thinking about how you're experiencing that and that you do want to grow in the way that you navigate these things. I'm gonna pass it to Lucia because she's gonna help introduce a concept that can help us get started on owning the choice we have in the midst of the change, challenge, and conflict.
Thank you, Mireya. And thank you all just for sharing your experiences. I know you just joined us, Kayla, but when you get a chance, if you sit with the question, we would love your answer either like in the chat or if you want to share. But I'll give you some time, right? Because you just got here. But I think this really leads us to really thinking about what are the tools, right, that can help us challenge change and conflict. And so one of the things that we embrace at Latinx Ed and are actively practicing, right, are not experts, but we're actively in the practice of is conscious leadership. Have any of you heard about that term before? No? Ah, beautiful. It's a great day. So, with some of the things that y'all were sharing, right, about being aware of how your past experiences have shaped your relationship to change, challenge, and conflict, maybe some ways that you are growing, and then other ways that you recognize, okay, like I'm avoidant and this, it is what it is. And, you know, I may want to change it or I also may not, right? Because for a lot of us, those are responses to very real situations that have happened. Um, Conscious leadership really helps us navigate all of these things. So just to provide a definition, and I'll put it in the chat because oh, thank you, Mita. Yeah, I think you might drop it in the chat because y'all know we love our definitions. Conscious leadership is the intentional practice of choosing mindsets and behaviors that foster trust, love, and integrity in your leadership. It involves deep self-awareness and the courage to lead with both presence and purpose, ensuring that actions align with values and the well-being of yourself and others. So that's like, wow, like what a dream, right? Like to practice that. But again, like this is a framework and it's a North Star, and it is something that we can be in the practice of. So really a shorter version of defining conscious leadership, right? It is about your self-awareness and your ability to tell yourself the truth. And I think you all really modeled that today, and being able to be honest with yourself about the ways that your experiences has shaped your relationships to these 3 C's, we can call them to make it shorter. And the growth areas, as well as the areas that, you feel proud of. Like I've worked on this in the last couple of years. So I think what is key there is that ability to tell yourself the truth and be in that practice of checking in with yourself and being self-aware. When y'all remember way back when in our retreats, in June and in May, when we talked about, community cultural wealth and an asset-based framework, they really are interrelated, right? Because when we think of leadership through that asset-based framework, we're wanting to think about what does it look like to approach both our leadership and the leadership of others from that place of love and trust. So when we're telling ourselves the truth, right, we can recognize the areas that we can grow in, the areas where we experience challenge, but we do that from a place of love, and from that place of integrity. So this all sounds great, and it seems like a big North Star to actually hold in practice. But I do want to be real, right? That we have to acknowledge how the systems of oppression and systemic barriers are designed to limit and take away like our power and choice. And just how the power and choice that we each hold as individuals and, in community are shaped within that context and that history of those intersectional identities. So I'll just give like a quick example. When I was doing the same exercise that y'all were just doing, and I was thinking about change. And I think for me, my relationship with change has had to grow a lot in the last few years. I think out of force, not choice. And it's because I have navigated a lot of really kind of crippling uncertainty with visa situations. And I just have not had control. And I've been in limbo and unemployed and without a salary and just waiting. And it was really hard. And it was a challenge, a change, and a conflict that I had no control over for months, right? And I think for me, I really had to shift my relationship to change, to be from a place of surrender. And how can I reframe this so I can flow with this change, because I can't do anything about it. So that is an example, right, of like systemic barriers in the immigration system, how that has shaped my life. And that's not been pretty or by choice. So I do think that that acknowledgement is important, right? That our relationships are shaped by those systems of oppression and those systemic barriers. And, a lot of times are those coping mechanisms and those survival mechanisms. So we say that, right? And we do think that through this lens of conscious leadership, we get to reclaim our power and choice that we do have in navigating these systems. So as I was sharing in my example, there was a lot I couldn't control about my immigration situation and what was going to happen. And I had to reckon with like, what is the agency that I have in my day to day, and finding joy and finding pleasure and going on a walk and listening to a podcast that like tickles my brain. Like I had to find solutions and embrace my agency, because I think in a lot of those situations where we feel powerless or are facing incredible challenge, that feeling of powerlessness, like it is crippling, right? Like I think many of you might have had those experiences, right? Where you feel like you can't do anything. So you just want to like lay down and there's nothing that can be done. And I think this framework, although I didn't have these words of conscious leadership at that time that I'm sharing, that's what I was doing. I was finding my power and my choice and my agency in my day to day, even when these larger circumstances were out of my control. So with reckoning with our power and choice, right? We have power and choice in every situation, and it is really up to us to decide how and if we use it. And again, it is the both and of recognizing how our choices are shaped and limited by these systems of oppression, and yet we do still have a lot of power and choice in how we navigate those things. So some other just kind of disclaimers about introducing conscious leadership, right, is no choice is a choice, right? Like even in situations where we choose to be silent, we choose to not address, a comment that might have bothered us. That's a choice, right? And it is rarely either or, right? Of like staying silent or saying something. It is really nuanced, and we always have probably more than two choices in some cases, and we have to weigh the benefits and the costs of these choices. So I think one of the things that comes along with conscious leadership is really thinking of the both and when we are weighing cost and benefit in making different choices, and that it is nuanced and it is complex, and sometimes it is rarely, crystal clear that there's an either or choice in the situation. So that is an introduction to conscious leadership. If you all like have more curiosities and questions, we have resources. We have been learning, in this framework internally for like about a year and a half, I guess, since I've been at Lennox Ed, and we're still in that constant exploration and practice of this. So again, this is not about perfection, right? It's about practice and just like being in it together and holding each other to what can be this North Star of showing up for ourselves and for each other in love and in trust and in integrity. So with that, now we're gonna get to practice and think about this framework about our own lives. So we're gonna do an individual reflection moment, and for the question that you see in the chat, we're gonna take 2 minutes just for you to reflect with yourself. What is one challenge, change, or conflict that you're currently navigating? So you're gonna choose something, right? And we're gonna walk through it and talk about what is the power and choice in this scenario. So again, it's at your discretion, which one do you want to choose, how vulnerable you want to be. But again, think about this space as this is a practice space. We're your thought partners. We're workshopping this together. So you can be as vulnerable as you need, but here you have a group of wonderful people that are here to workshop it with you. So, take us up on the invitation. So I will start a timer on my phone for 2 minutes, and you can go ahead and reflect on that question in the chat. All right, y'all. Our timer has completed. And so, you just needed to identify just one, either challenge, change, or conflict. And, sometimes that one is all three. So, so now again, we're leaning into that radical vulnerability and the trust that we've built over time here. And want to ask who is feeling called to share about a little synopsis of your scenario. And what we're going to be talking about is, what is your power and choice in this scenario to get started? So feel free to unmute yourself, share the scenario, and we'll be talking through identifying your power and choice in the scenario. Are y'all doing nose goes or something? Okay, okay, Amanda.
So at first I had to put challenge beside of this as I was typing it in the chat, but then I think it's actually a conflict because I put dealing with conflict in regards to my twins expressing some concerning behaviors by their father, by the hands of their father, causing emotional trauma. My hands are tied. I can't do anything but be a loving, caring mama by providing them with a safe space when they come home to me. That's what I wrote.
Okay. So what is your power and choice in this scenario? I think you named it already, but
I did, yeah. Just to continuing being their safe space, giving them someone to talk to name those behaviors without passing judgment on the situation and him and not saying bad things, just giving them an opportunity to unload all of the emotions.
yeah, I think you went ahead and named, right, like what is in your control in the situation. And I wonder, when you think about what is in your control and what you have the power to do you feel like you are owning your power and choice in this difficult situation?
Yes, I feel like I know what is in my control and what is out of my control, but I feel like I'm letting them down. Like I'm making a plan. We have a plan. It's a long-term plan, but the right here and now is challenging.
Yeah. And I think part of conscious leadership is thinking like, what are all your options, right?
Mm-hmm.
If an option, and I don't know if you said this, I don't think you did, but tell me if you did. Is an option talking with their dad about the situation?
I have
Oh, you have. Okay. And how did that go?
not well,
Mm.
not well at all.
And this was just together or with your kids?
Them not present, just
Oh.
us two.
And you shared time with them, I think you've said this
Mm-hmm.
before. Do you have control on how much they spend?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to acknowledge, Amanda, I think this is one of those challenges that we were talking about, or that Lucia was naming earlier, right? Like, it sounds like, based off of what you're saying, there are a lot of things that are not in your control. So what you're naming and recognizing that is within your control is what you can do for your children at this time, right? And that's providing them a safe space and creating a long-term plan. I think even in that decision, or that choice, you're exercising your power, I think, within the realm of what is feasible and realistic given the constraints of the entire situation. That doesn't make the situation much easier to navigate. It doesn't make it an immediate solution, right, for the circumstance that your children are currently experiencing. And I think this is one of the, what's I say, the realities of leading, even in this small example with your family, like you are having to make a really difficult situation for what is important and safe for your children. And I wanted to just recognize that, right? That you are doing the best that you can with the power and choice that you have at this moment. And yeah, just commending you for that reality.
Yeah, I think in that too, like, with the definition of conscious leadership, right? It sounds great. And like in practice, right? Like you are owning your power and choice in the situation, and it doesn't necessarily feel satisfactory, right? Like there is still a lot of pain in what you're not able to control. And so I think this is like an iterative process, right? And maybe you are owning your power and choice now, and things might change a week, a month, a year down the line where reassessing your power and choice, there might be other options and other resources that are within your reach, or, support from community, things like that. So yeah, I think you are like demonstrating so much courage in that and in stepping into your power and choice in the situation, and it just brings to the reality of, even when we do that, right, like doesn't mean we will feel satisfactory, or will feel great, or will feel like the actual challenge that we're addressing is fully addressed, and it's the short term versus the long term. And yeah, just that piece about it being iterative and in constant practice as things evolve and change in that situation. Mira, were you gonna say something? Oh, sorry, you were muted.
Just kind of similar to acknowledge, like one saying thank you for like sharing and being the first to share like a very heavy topic. And we'll continue to circle back on different scenarios, and if however this continues to feel relevant to what we're discussing, like continuing to think about what might come up through that process. We'll want to do one more. So who's our second person who wants to share their scenario?
I can.
Kayla.
Yay!
Hi,
Yay!
everyone. Sorry, I got home from work like 20 minutes ago. But anyways, so after some thinking, I think what I'm gonna say is like a challenge and a change. Maybe a conflict too, I don't know. So yesterday, my abuela just left for Mexico, like out of suddenly, like she left because her hermana is really sick. So she left on a one-way flight, and we hope she'll be back soon. But with things in Mexico how they are, and like the health of her hermana, it's like really unknown because we don't really know what's going on. So she left very suddenly yesterday, and it's a big change for us because I live with my abuela. I live with my abuela, I live with my abuelo, my mom, and my little sister. And my abuela is like the mom of the house. Like she cooks, she cleans, she does the laundry, she helps take care of my little sister because I work full time now. My mom works full time. My abuelo isn't as like active as he used to be, so it's really difficult for him to take care of a 3-year-old. Okay, she's 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a really big change, and it's only the first day. So my mom already had to like do a lot of different things, like get off of work early and things like that. And so I guess the challenge also is that I feel like I have to be more independent now. And it's kind of embarrassing to say, but like I depend on my abuela for so many things. I love my abuela. Like she is literally my bestie, and it's so hard to come home and she's not here. Like she's not waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like what my control is like learning how to be more independent without her, in the sense that like I can be more helpful with my little sister. I can learn how to cook. I can learn how to like I can bring home food if I need to. Things like that. Like I can learn how to, I guess, take care of myself more and my family because I haven't done that before without my abuela not being here. Yeah.
How do you feel about owning, some of this new skills and kind of approaches to your day to day?
It's kind of hard, especially since I've started like, this is my first full-time job after graduating college. 40 hours a week, y'all, like 10-hour days sometimes. So it's been really hard for that transition, first of all. And then, like, I got the news recently that I'm gonna have to start paying for some of my own bills. Not that I have like a lot of bills to pay in the first place, but like I have to start paying my car insurance, which I've never done before. So it's like I've had these transitions, and then boom, my abuela leaves, and I'm like, okay, wait, hold on, wait a minute, I just graduated college. Wait, so it is kind of a wake up call because I'm like, I'm 20 years old now. I should be able to know how to cook. I should be able to know how to separate my laundry if I need to. So I guess it's kind of thrown me for a loop, and it's a little stressful. And it's like, I miss my abuela, but I miss her because I miss the things that she did for me.
Mm.
But I also miss her, y'all. Okay, I'm not miss her because of what she did. I love my abuela. Okay.
Yeah. Um, Definitely, I think, sometimes, como dicen, when it rains, it pours. Like it's all happening at the same time. Those are the moments that like you look back in your life and you're like, I remember when like all of these things were happening to me at the same time. And while I was going through it in the midst of it, I just didn't understand why. Like, why is it all just happening now? Why couldn't it just, separate a little bit, one thing at a time? And I think as you think about how you're navigating this, it's like, what are you learning through that too? Because those are the times where it really pushes you to make decisions that you've never had to make before and start learning to operate in different ways, regardless of the situation you might be going through. And this one, there's a change in the people that cared for you and who you cared for. And so, at least temporarily while your grandma's not here. So just thinking about what is the lesson that come through those moments of change, challenge, and conflict. Um, but also reminding yourself a little bit about the grace. Because I hear you saying, like, I should know how to do that at 20 years old. And girl, you'll have time to start learning things one thing at a time. So really, I think part of conscious leadership too is sometimes our brains can so easily go to like the negative or the fear and the doubt, but reminding yourself, okay, these are part navigating these situations, these challenges are part of growing. And as you go into this adulting and it's kind of all hitting you at the same time, just reminding yourself of the grace that you can give yourself through that process is important, Kayla. Thanks for
And
sharing.
I'll just add too, like, when I think about I love the cards, Brian. The definition of like conscious leadership, and we're talking about aligning our actions with our values and the well-being of yourself and others, like, where does your support system come in, and how are we a support system for you, like your family, like your friends, like where can you ask for help, right? Because conscious leadership isn't about you got to do everything yourself and figure it out yourself, right? Like part of that self-awareness and that courage piece is asking for support. And it does seem like it's pouring over there, and I think, not to get too deep into the nature metaphors, right? But like, what with the rain, right? Like what is going to be able to grow out of this experience, right? Like what are the behaviors and the mindsets that like you are able to cultivate and grow into beautiful flowers and things like that. So just it's that both and of, this is a lot of change, and as Mira just said, what are the lessons that can come from this, and what are the things that can grow from this, and just that reminder of you don't have to do it by yourself, and where does community and this community of practice and the other people in your life come in, to be with you in that.
Oh my God. I wish we could have longer. Definitely happy to like jump on a call if y'all want to go through your scenario too. um, but it's 7:28, so we do want to honor our time. And we're gonna keep talking about this. So like you're actually gonna continue to talk about your scenarios. And that's how we're going to end today, to think about at the end of each session, we're actually going to have a challenge for that week for our next time. And so as we think about practicing conscious leadership, we are also wanting to provide like maybe helpful ways to practice that, the self-awareness, the grace, the reminder of the power and choice. And so we have a framework. It's not copying over neatly, but our consciousness framework, we had the 3 C's, the change, challenge, and conflict. And in our conscious framework, we have the 3 C's, thinking about the context. What is the big picture? Sometimes when we're really thinking about the one situation or that one moment that we're really struggling with, we forget to take a step back. And maybe you've heard of us saying getting on the balcony. We might have mentioned it during the retreats. But if we don't take a moment to think about the bigger picture, sometimes we might miss that this one situation isn't just an isolated situation. It's connected to something bigger in yourself or in the relationships you're navigating through that situation. So really thinking about the context is a really good first step to start practicing that self-awareness and to be really truthful with yourself about what's actually really going on. Because is it just that I'm having one bad day, or is it that there's a lot of different things happening in my life right now and I'm not realizing that it's impacting me, how I'm showing up at my job or for myself and how I care for me? So context is our first C. Then we go into choice and we think about, in this context with what I'm thinking about, what are some of the choices available to me? In that situation, what can I do to navigate these moments? And thinking about what is in your control. This, for me personally, has been a really big reminder, because oftentimes I felt like I didn't have control over a lot of things, but practicing conscious leadership, and I think we've all probably in this journey too, we realize that sometimes there is a lot more that we can do. And even Lucian, the example you shared earlier, you realize, how can I take care of myself in this moment? And there was so much power in that, right? In the ways that you could take care of yourself in that moment, that maybe before you thought about that, it just felt like I can't do anything about anything right now. But when you think about that control you can have in that moment, it really brings back the power you have in the situations you're navigating. And courage. How do you want to show up as you make those choices? Some of those choices might be harder than others, and it will require you to show up differently than maybe you have before. And so leaning into courage as you move forward with the choices you decide will be important. So be strategic about how you're showing up for yourself and for others in those moments of change, challenge, and conflict, and the ways that you're exercising your leadership. So with that, the challenge for this week is that you're going to continue to think about one situation and practice using this framework as a way to really practice consciousness leadership. And so maybe you stick to the scenario you just selected, or maybe you think about a different scenario that you want to start practicing it. And you can practice it with multiple. But when we come back next week, you're going to talk about your scenario and then what came up for you as you practice these 3 steps in the consciousness framework. Any questions or thoughts as we kind of start wrapping up this session around what we learned today, or even the challenge for the week that we're sharing with you? All right. Let me drop the handout again, Kayla, because we did share at each session we'll have a handout for everybody. And so make sure that you get your handout for today. You can review it, add anything you want to add for yourself. This is for you, for your purposes of learning and having something to look back to. But yeah, thank you for leaning in today. Thank you for your transparency and uplifting your needs as you think about what you need so that you can make the most and really lean into coaching. If you ever need some one-on-one sessions, definitely reach out to us and we can schedule those. So know that we are here in between these sessions as you continue to learn and unpack some of what you're learning. If there's nothing else, thank you. Oh, Kimberly?
Can I just ask, is anyone else getting an error message that the file isn't able to open in their Google Docs? No, just me. Okay. I'll try it again, but I'm getting, yeah, it's telling me to check the address and try again.
If not, I'll share a different one. Ahorita, Kimberly. All right. If it our next session is next week. So in 1 week we'll see each other again at 6 o'clock and continue this conversation around navigating the 3 C's.
I
have
won't
an
be able
issue.
to be here.
All right. So
Okay,
Yasmin
Amanda?
and Amanda both. Okay. I'll pass it to Kiera and Kimberly. I'm gonna drop a new link.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll follow up with y'all so that we can still continue the conversation, Yasmin and Amanda. Thank you for flagging for us that you won't be here.
Yeah, we
Ooh,
have open house that night.
okay, open house. School year starting already. Goodness, I can't believe it.
Not ready for it.
All right, y'all. Well, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
We,
you.
next week, we didn't say. Get some good
Thank
rest.
you. Nos vemos.
Adios. See you, Kayla.
Sorry for being late.
You're totally fine.
I get off of work at 6:30, y'all.
Where are you
6:30.
working right now, Kayla?
Yeah, what's your
I
job?
started my new job in downtown Burlington on Davis Street, if y'all know where that is. Maybe, maybe not. But it's at an ABA clinic. So I'm basically like providing ABA therapy to children with autism.
Wow.
Oh,
I love it. I love it. I love
oh
my
my
job.
God. What a
Girl,
great.
them 10-hour days are rough.
Yeah, that sounds intense. 10-hour days. Oh my Kayla. I hope you're taking care of yourself. We'll
Kayla,
find.
we're gonna have
Trying.
to like grab a coffee at the blend or something because are you like walking distance from there or something?
Where's the blend?
It's like right on the
Oh,
downtown strip.
oh shit, I'm looking it up. It says, oh, let me look it up for my job.
If you work 10-hour days, what day is your free day?
I work 5-hour days on Mondays and Fridays, but I go in late, so I still get off at 6:30.
Uh,
Yeah,
mm,
it's terrible. But well, it's really not that bad. I'm not gonna say it's terrible. I have a great time. It says it's 3 minutes from my job.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I know where it is.
All right. Let me know.
Yeah.
A break.
Okay. I just wanted to chit chat with y'all because I didn't get that moment in the beginning.
Aw.
We love the chit chat.
Thank you, Kayla.
Goodbye, y'all. Have a nice
Bye.
day.
That was